Hi, I'm Howard Litton. I'm a consultant in the kids' TV industry. Have been for a few years now since I left Nickelodeon back in 2010. My relationship with CMC goes back quite a long way. I think back to the very beginning, actually. I think in 2004, when I think, if my mind isn't gone too senile, I was involved in a group that's helped to get the whole thing up and running when it was called Show Commotion before it was CMC. I'm going to talk about a keynote that really inspired me, which was in 2015 from a lady called Jenny Seeley. She, I think, was the artistic director or the head of a fabulous theatre company called Grey Eye, which was basically there to give opportunities to disabled, blind, deaf, severely disabled children and young people to get them into theatre, get them acting, give them opportunities that they might otherwise never have. And I remember that I was just blown away by her and what she was saying, because she was just so passionate and she clearly cared a lot about her kids and what she was trying to do. And she was just really inspirational. I found it a very inspirational talk, and it made me think a lot about how we take for granted our kind of ability just to be able to walk around and see and hear and all the things that we take for granted. And she just was also very funny. She was very passionate. She was very, very funny.
But first of all, things you need to know about me. Please can you put your right palm on your right nipple, left palm on your left nipple, rub. No, don't do that. Now move your palms down so your palms are facing the heavens but your little fingers are still touching your nipples. Yeah? Now imagine you're carrying something very big and bouncy. Let your hands bounce. Have a very good look at me. I'm Jenny. All deaf people, Camilla would agree with me over here, all deaf people have name signs because I'm with more than just Jenny. So that's my name sign. And that was me audio describing my name sign so that blind and visually impaired people can also engage with that exercise. If I'm working in schools with young people, it's Jenny. Because I always have glasses on my head, whatever the weather, and I usually have big clunky shoes or DMs, big glasses, big tits, big shoes. I feel balanced. That's me.
And I remember specifically she talked about Basil Brush being her favourite show, and when she became deaf, I think at 7, she started watching it again and realised that it was really, really difficult to lip read a puppet, which I thought was quite funny.
As Sue said, I went deaf when I was 7, and so ended my relationship with television. So I don't know why I'm here, actually. But we had that lovely programme, I'm sure you remember. Thank you for your pictures. I'm sorry we can't return them. There's a lot of people who will not get this reference because you're far too young. But back in the day, fantastic programme called Vision On. There was about 5.5 seconds of signing. It was heaven. But apart from that, pretty much bugger all. My life is divided between BD and AD. BD is before death, not deaf, before death. And before death, I loved, for whatever reason, the Basil Brush. Again, the reference might be lost on some of you. Then AD, after death. God, why do I do this to myself? My mum said, Jenny, that programme's back on television, the one that you used to like with the talking dog. And I thought, oh yes, I couldn't really remember it. So there I am, deaf, little box hearing aid, in plugs there, television's on. Fuck. So there's this dog going like that. And it's like, have you ever tried to lip read a puppet? So I just thought, right, me being me, I'm on a mission here. I'm on a mission. I am going to lip read puppets. I'm going to learn. I'm 50, nearly 52. I'm still on a mission. I still haven't conquered quite that. But it was at that point when I realised, oh, I'm deaf. Oh, television is not going to be my domain, and I'm going to really have to change how I circumnavigate classroom banter, playground banter, in around what it is, not knowing what the programmes are that everyone's following. As a young person, you can sort of, little one, you can sort of get away with it, but when you become a teenager, it's a bugger. I wanted to know what those programmes were. And I grew up in Nottingham, and there was a programme called, it was a bit like an early days Biker Grove, it was called The Kids at 37A, I swear that's what it was called. And my sister, God bless her, would sit with me and try and lip speak everything that was being said so that I could at least engage with my mates the day after, the next day in school. I do owe her.
What else do I remember? Well, just the work that she showed. I remember the reels being, it really blew me away, you know. She showed a show reel of some fantastic work, and she'd worked with some amazing people, and it just looked absolutely gorgeous.
How many people know who Grey Eye are? Right, it's a fucking travesty, isn't it? I'm not doing my job very well if you don't know who we are. We are, ladies and gentlemen, UK's flagship professional disabled led theatre company, and it's an awesome place to work in. It's all about evolving, about change, about organisational change, staff changes, casting changes, and changing with the time, changing with the politics and the economics and everything. It's a story of the three Grey Eye sisters who share between them an eye and a tooth. And that person came and stole them because he wanted to know how to kill the Medusa. They tell him, but he doesn't give them back. He throws them into the wilderness, and the myth is the Grey Eye sisters were left screaming and defenceless. Well, we are. Grey Eye is screaming for a passion for inclusion, and our right to be centre stage in every single creative domain that there is. And what we do the same as the Grey Eye sisters, is we share what we have. Seriously, if someone rocks up with no legs, I'm not going to find many legs, am I? You know, for me, it's more important, can they act? And that's what Grey Eye is about. We work with what we have rather than what we haven't got.
She was just a very inspirational speaker, and she got angry as well, and I agreed with her, you know, because the government at the time were cutting funding to disabled people and cutting back funding to the arts in general, and she was basically challenging the entire audience, the TV audience, to kind of do something about that and get involved with that fight and that kind of narrative. And I remember thinking, yeah, and also feeling really, perhaps the only time since I left Nick UK in 2010, I remember thinking, oh, I really wish that I was the boss of the company again. Thinking, oh my God, I wish I could do something really positive and do something more for these incredibly talented kids with disability.
So I have the most glorious job putting on plays with meaty stuff like that. And kids come up with the most extraordinary responses of engagement, of questioning, and wanting to know about the difference and all of that. And I think I really feel I have a huge responsibility to make sure that as many young people see the work we do. It's back to dispelling that elephant. And it's about young disabled and non-disabled people, young deaf people, young blind people, all being part of the same audience, all experiencing the same show with different means of access, but they're all there together. They belong with the narrative. I'm quite interested in how we could all engage with each other and how some of the aesthetics that I mess around with, that are permitted within the text and owned by the actors, can happen on television. Maybe it already is, so do shoot me down if I'm just it's already happening. But just things like, I've just been talking to Sue, who's doing Rocket Island. There's a deaf young person in it that's going to be signing, and how important that is. But what about, subtitles? They're really painful to read. You never know who's talking. What about speech bubbles there? So stuff starts becoming more interactive. What about a really rich visual? How can it be multisensory in television? I'm sure you can, by really rich colours and visuals and sounds. And there's so much that I think is still really, really unexplored. And again, that whole thing about the accessibility of audio description. I mean, I don't know how many young people engage with television, maybe radio, and obviously I've not done any research on radio for obvious reasons. Can't hear it. But presumably there are really good radio dramas, and I hope that there are blind storylines and blind actors on those very, very programmes. I think there's a way that we can start mashing up our films. I really do. And that will start to change. I've changed the force of British theatre through Grey Eye, and our disabled people stance in that, and I think we can start trying to do the same with telly. I did have the most incredible opportunity to change people's perceptions in and around impairment and what we can and cannot do by being part and co-directing with the lovely Bradley Hemming the opening ceremony of the Paralympics. I was just a little regular deaf kid struggling away in mainstream school, lip reading for my country. Where did this ambition of fire came from? It's because I'm deaf, and because I've been allowed to live because of lack of opportunity, lack of access. I've lived in my own bubble and just watched and created my own layers of access for me. And that stood me such a good stead to become a director. And also, I'm hell-bent on justice, equality and inclusion. So, to have that stadium, yes. And, I'm sure that some of the people that appointed us thought that Denny Bradley would do a nice little show, like Beijing, they did the Teletubbies. Well, fuck off, we're better than that. Seriously. Bradley and I were going to do a rich, emotional, universal narrative, and my God, were we going to have as many deaf and disabled people on that stage thinking about, diversity in its broadest sense, class, gender, sexuality, ethnicity, age, all of it. We had it all. One of my first meetings with volunteers, so I'm going anecdotal now, with this brilliant, real working class Bethel Green woman came up and said, Jenny, guess how old I am? I think I'm the oldest person here. And she looked good. She said, what, how old are you? She said, don't tell them, I'm not supposed to really be here, but I'm 87. I mean, what? What do you do? She said, I've got a 50-year-old lover, we have sex a lot. Brilliant. Sorry. But so we created this narrative of discovery of self, humanity, the enormity of our history and our place in the world, completely based on the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. We had Ian McKellen as Prospero, and rehearsing with him, he's such a glorious lovey. I do love him. He said, Jenny, darling, what's happening after I've just done my bit? Do I just go off? What's happening next in your narrative? I said, Ian, it's our bit about empowerment. What? It's our equality bit. We're doing spasticus autisticus. I'm doing that. Stage manager, come over here. I want one of those coats that everyone's going to be wearing. I want a banner that says equality. I did find Stonewall, darling. And there he was, on that book, the Declaration book, with his protest banners, singing and cheering, spasticus autisticus. Oh my God, so we had, 25-foot inflatable of Alison Lapper. We had Stephen Hawking on the main stage. Beverly Knight, Lizzie Emma, spasticus autisticus. I swear to God, if any of you have the wherewithal to help me get Reasons to be Cheerful, our Ian Dury-inspired musical that you saw on there, made into TV, because it's gorgeous. And God knows, with the present government, we need a reason to be cheerful. Anyway, sorry, back to Sports Day. So the Paralympics. I had 44. I know it's not very many in the grander scheme, and thinking about how big that stadium is. But we really had 44 deaf disabled artists. Well, they weren't artists, they were former Royal Marine, ex-army, hairdressers, stay-at-home mums. The one thing they all had in common, they were disabled, they had strong core muscles and a real sense of the devil and risk-taking. And they were absolutely on board to become circus performers and to be in the air in that stadium and make that statement. Loved it, and that changed how circus is taught forever and ever. We found a whole inclusive language. Oh, in that stadium, 67,000 people shouting, Spartacus, Spartacus, Spartacus Autisticus, or singing I Am What I Am with Beverly and I, the final song. Because we are all, indeed, our own special creations, are we not? Oh, goose pimples. I cannot tell you how disappointed I was. Disappointed that that euphoria could not last. Because another change happened. A bloody, bloody, brutal change happened. And this is where I need you. You have no idea how much I need you. We fell from grace. Two things. Channel 4, apologies if you work for Channel 4, you did us a massive favour because the billboard said, thank you for the warm-up. There's a comment to the Olympics that the Paris was going to be the real thing, and it was. But Channel 4 also created a massive crime in my book. Nobody contacted me about my artists or wanted them, apart from Channel 4. And who did they want them for? They wanted my artists and deaf and disabled volunteers for their programme, The Undateables. And I'm sorry, that is not the legacy I wanted for my artists at all, or the legacy of the Paralympics. But it gets worse. While we were doing our great big show, the government was silently cutting what is called the Independent Living Fund. And I don't know whether you know what that is. It's a fund of about £350, £400 given to individual disabled people so that they can book their own PAs to support them with eating, shopping, cleaning, hoisting them to the bathroom, putting them to bed. They help facilitate these people's independence. So Esther McVey decided, don't need it anymore. So that was going to be closed down, so we had a battle on our hands. The second thing, access to work. God love them, or I did. Access to work pays for Steve. It means I can have access. I had access to work with all those people in the Paralympics. I have access to do my job at Grey Eye. I know I can speak, but I can't hear, and I need him. And I need all the other interpreters, like you need your interpreters, Camilla. So we have had cut. My first letter from them was, Jenny, you're going down from 48 hours a week of sign language interpreting to 72 hours a month. How am I supposed to do my job? How am I supposed to do my job? And the money doesn't work. You know, for our Independent Living Fund, it's £340, £50, £400 a week. All those people now are going to care homes, and it costs £3,500 to be in a care home. When I work, I pay tax, and I employ Steve, and he pays his tax. Don't you, Steve? Goodbye. So for every pound that's spent, £1.48 goes back to the Treasury. So I don't get the maths. And on Monday, John Kelly, who is in Reasons to be Cheerful and in the Threepenny Opera and a massive activist, wore our horse. I was the back end of a horse, and it's a horse a bit like an ice cream cartoon horse, and I was the tail. John's in a wheelchair with electrics. We paraded up to Parliament, gave a petition of only 225,000 signatures, which is, we needed more, to say, please don't cut us. And there were so many of us, mainly the wheelchair use a lot, with incontinence pads, because that is what they're giving them. They're giving people incontinence pads rather than pay for care so they can go to the loo when they want to go to the toilet. They're going to sit in their own piss. It was the most extraordinary day of just unfathomable grief. I need you lot. I need you to be informed in and about everything to do with the ILF and access to change. Because diversity, good old Lenny Henry, brilliant being on the Olivia stage with the Act for Change thing. Diversity is a hot subject. Everyone wants it. Good, about bloody time. But if you want to have those deaf and disabled artists in your programmes, working for you and all the rest of it, like I want them on my stage, like I want them on the National Theatre stage, it's not going to happen, is it? It's not going to happen because the government are changing what we are allowed or not allowed to partake in. They're creating a slow, torturous death where we will fade away. So please, we're better than that, all of us together in this room, aren't we? We can affect real change. I want you to come on board with me as media partners or tutors or writers or whatever, because I'm hell-bent, I'm not letting this lie. I'm going to be training a group who can only put enough money for six young people aged 16 to 25, work-based learning, over the next year, because I want them to be storming the stages, storming your screens. Then I'll get another 6, I'll get 10, I'll get 20, and we start building a really big deaf and disabled arts community, just to say to the government, you know what? We ain't going anywhere. So on that note, can you stick your 2 fingers in the air? Oh, not like that, no, come on, no swearing here. It's like that. Put your hands on your shoulders and flick your fingers up. So that is a sign for assertive. Don't mess with me. Feisty. So together we are going to change, and we are going to remember, because we have to remember, that the Paralympics did make change, even though, and I just have to read you this because it makes me feel a bit sick, 2/3, 67% of the British public feel uncomfortable talking to disabled people. If we were more visible right across the creative industry, people won't be scared. They will just see us as people with hearts and minds, people who shit, people who fuck, people who, all that stuff. So I'm just going to show you the final clip, just the Paralympic highlights, because that, when I watched that, it restores my faith in what I need to do, what I can do, but what I need to do in partnership with all of you. So can we just show the Paralympic one, please?
Our eyes, our ears, shine your light on the beautiful diversity of humanity. Look up, stretch your wings and fly.
There is no such thing as a standard or run-of-the-mill human being, but we share the same human spirit. What is important is that we have the ability to create. However difficult life may seem, there is always something you can do and succeed at. The games provide an opportunity for athletes to excel, to stretch themselves and become outstanding in their field. So let us together celebrate excellence, friendship, and respect.
Day. Thank you.